was almost like Amanda talking from the grave. Is it a crime of passion? Is it a crime of revenge?
What's going on?
When you walk in this apartment, you see Amanda Plass lying there on the floor.
She's spread out on her back, and there's blood all around her.
There was no doubt that she was already dead. It wasn't even like she needs help, it was she's dead. My worst enemy, I wouldn't want to have to go through that. It's just horrible.
Not knowing how to even comprehend what had happened, but then still knowing that, okay, I need to put my child to rest.
Every single person in her life was a suspect. Everybody.
She said she had a lot of bad relationships in the past. Oh my God.
You know what? Mom ain't playing around no more. Somebody knew something.
Our story begins here in Chicopee, Massachusetts. A small city nestled alongside the Connecticut River. Chicopee is a suburb of Springfield, Mass. It's about 90 miles outside of Boston. Here on bustling Memorial Drive is this busy Friendly's restaurant. It's a place for ice cream celebrations and familiar faces. One of those familiar faces, 20-year-old Amanda Plass. More than a waitress, really. Those who knew her said she was the heart of this place.
Amanda really connected with the customers there.
She had a child that used to come in and only liked red gummy bears on his sundae, so she made his sundae with just the red gummy bears.
That's just how Amanda was. Everybody loved her.
We would come here and we would ask for her because she just brightened our day. She was just a sweetheart.
It was a warm evening in August, right around 5 o'clock, and Malene Holmes sat right here in this Friendly's, waiting for Amanda. Malene was a customer, and she and Amanda had become friends. They were supposed to meet right before Amanda's shift for dinner.
She used to come here and have dinner with us before she'd start her shift. We had been waiting for her, and then she didn't show. Everybody was concerned. They were trying to call her, and there was no response. Everybody's like, where is she? It was just very strange. It was very, very strange.
Even more strange was when minutes turned to hours, and the ever-reliable Amanda Plass never arrived for her shift at Friendly's. Not long after Amanda fails to show up for work, a frantic 911 call comes into the Chicopee Police Department. The caller is a 22-year-old named Seth Green. And Seth tells dispatchers that when he went to visit his girlfriend Amanda, he stepped into a scene of unimaginable horror.
She was laying on the kitchen floor right when I opened the door. Just in a pool of blood, stabbed to death. Called 911. I was still holding her when I called 911. I mean, there was no doubt that she was already dead. It wasn't even like she needs help, it was she's dead. I mean, she was, throat was slit, multiple stab wounds to the chest, right in the heart.
I was the on-call state police detective for that particular day. I got a call to say that there was a homicide occurred in Chicopee.
Ronald Gibbons, who at the time was a detective with the Massachusetts State Police, raced to the crime scene. What's the scene like? You arrive, what are you taking in?
This is the building itself. The Chicopee police officers had cordoned off this area, had put the yellow tape around it
Right.
to block anyone from going to the back.
When the first detectives arrived at the scene, Lieutenant Gibbons says Seth was in distress and sitting on the back porch.
He was frantic, he was erratic, he was just a range of emotions.
What was that like for you, to see her on that floor?
It's just something that I would never wish upon anybody. Like, you know, my worst enemy, I wouldn't want to have to go through that. Honestly, it's just horrible.
When you walk in this apartment, you see Amanda Plass lying there on the floor. Describe the position she was in and what you're taking in as you see her.
She's like spread out on her back and there's blood all around her.
Death by stabbing is very often a personal attack on behalf of the perpetrator. You have to be up on top of somebody when you plunge that knife into them.
It was almost like Amanda talking from the grave. Is it a crime of passion? Is it a crime of revenge? There's a lot of slashes here. This was very violent. It looked like she fought.
I knelt down right next to her. I wanted to, you know, imagine or think that she was, you know, breathing or something. And I tried to give her CPR, like blow into her mouth, and it literally blew out of her. She was pretty butchered up, and yeah, it's just horrible.
She's lying on the floor in a pool of blood with multiple wounds, partially dressed, and very dead.
It's around the same time that Amanda's sister, Amy Lee, receives an unexpected visit from her aunt.
And she told me, you know, your sister's dead. Your sister's been murdered. And I remember just crying instantly. I remember screaming. And my aunt is like, we need to find out who did this. We need to find out right now. And as we're en route to go tell her, my mom's calling me. And she's saying, Amy, what's going on? My mom's begging me to tell her on the phone what's wrong.
So I went outside, and there were the Chicopee detectives and the state, my daughter, my husband, to let me know that she had been stabbed to death.
So in real time, you're learning that your daughter was stabbed to death. How difficult is it to process all of this that's going on in that moment?
Oh my gosh, how am I going to bury this kid? Or what, you know, 19, 20-year-old has a life insurance policy. Where do you get the money? Just that whole process of not knowing how to even comprehend what had happened, but then still knowing that, okay, I need to put my child to rest.
It's something you can never be prepared for.
No, never in a million years.
You see your friend and they're happy, they're vibrant, they're excited for life, and then all of a sudden, they're gone. And it just didn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense.
I had this heavy gut feeling that something really bad was gonna happen to Amanda. I was like, oh my God, did I manifest this? Like, did I put that thought out there and it came true?
Nobody could understand why it happened because Amanda was just friends with everybody. I don't remember Amanda having any enemies.
Every single person in her life was a suspect. Everybody.
Any detective or criminologist is going to tell you that our money is on Seth Green, the most recent boyfriend.
Well, my captain is now saying, head to the station. They got a possible suspect. He's down at the station. They're going to interview him. Need you there right now. It's a race against time.
I think my knife might have been at her house.
So you have a knife at her house? That knife was not found. Seth was the perfect suspect.
To truly understand Amanda Plass, all you needed to do was look into her eyes.
You can see her soul, the love that she had for everybody and anybody.
Her eyes changed colors. When she was really happy, her eyes would literally turn green.
What stands out to you when you think about her?
Her spirit, yeah, her energy.
Amanda grew up in Chicopee, once a bustling mill town, now a quiet working-class community known for the rambling Chicopee River.
Chicopee's a small place. Everybody knows everybody.
The neighborhood itself is a very close-knit neighborhood. The houses are pretty adjacent to each other. Very urban residential neighborhood.
How often does it happen that you have a random murder?
A lot of times you have a gang murder, and this was different because this is truly a victim in her own apartment, a young girl, 20 years old, brutally murdered.
Amanda was the middle child, raised by her mom, Michelle. She attended a local high school, but left before graduating and instead earned her GED.
She was a hippie child. I often find her barefooted outside, painting or taking pictures of the neighbor's dog, playing her guitar.
Growing up, we were like best friends. My mom used to dress us up like we were twins. My mom was a single mother for most of our childhood, and we moved around a lot.
I've always raised my children to be, independent, and you get what you earn.
I used to call Amanda the bigger sister. She had a job, an apartment. Her work ethic was nonstop. Amanda was always dancing around and painting and splashing colors everywhere.
Anything that had to do with being artsy, she would make feather earrings.
When you see a sunflower, you think of Amanda. It became her trademark. When she found the music festival scene, that really is where she started to blossom. She's in her early 20s, and she just found herself right before she passed.
A butterfly coming out of a cocoon. Just the brightness. That was her.
On that tragic Friday in Chicopee, Amanda's boyfriend Seth, whom she had only been dating for about a week, tells police he stopped by Amanda's apartment and immediately noticed a broken window.
Kept pounding on the door for a minute.
And then did you try going to her apartment door?
Yeah, turned the handle on the knots.
I went to her door and let myself in, and she was laid on the floor in a pool of blood.
She got up immediately and called.
You have the right to remain silent. Do you understand that?
Seth had only been dating Amanda for the week.
But he said he had moved his things in, and it was a serious relationship.
I've been hanging out every single day for a week now. Grounds.
And the relationship was moving fast, right?
Yeah, I was moving fast. She had that go-getter attitude and just a fun, caring person.
What were you doing for a living at the time?
I'm a carpenter, but roofing is where the money's at. So roofing was my main go-to usually for the construction field.
Seth tells police he spent the night at Amanda's, left for work around 9 a.m., and returned to find her dead. He also tells investigators he was working on a roof that day and left the job site multiple times to purchase supplies.
What time did you leave to get the materials?
I had left like 3 times. It was later in the day.
3 to 4?
Like 3 to 4.
Seth says he and Amanda had kind of fallen into a routine. Every day after he finished working, Seth would drive Amanda to her job at Friendly's. However, the day she was murdered, Seth tells detectives that routine was broken because he had to work late.
He was there every day that week to take her to work, but this is the one day that he had to work late. That kind of was suspicious to us.
How important was Seth's timeline?
His timeline is very important. He leaves the job site several times, and he's on his own. So where exactly did he go, or what exactly did he do?
I texted her, I said, "Where are you?" She didn't answer.
My first thought was like, oh, she stayed home. Maybe she couldn't find a ride.
So you weren't like concerned or anything at that point?
No, not at all. I drove straight to her house, expecting to see her there, waiting for me, you know.
Oh my God, no. She deserves so much. You give it all to her.
These range of emotions does not add up. He's rising to the occasion of being a suspect.
The interrogators zone in immediately on the fact that Seth Green is a carpenter and a roofer. In other words, he uses sharp objects and utility knives all the time.
Then comes a chilling detail that ratchets up the suspicion on Seth. He tells detectives the knife he used at work, a sharp M-Tech blade, has gone missing.
I think my knife might have been at her house.
So you have a knife at her house?
Yeah, I think it might be at her house. It might be in my car as well, I'm not sure.
He was missing his M-Tech knife that he didn't take to work that day. That knife was not found. Seth was the perfect suspect.
My girlfriend just got murdered and you're blaming me for it. Dude, are you kidding me?
And now police want to know if the telltale piece of evidence left behind at the crime scene will implicate or exonerate Seth Green. Michelle Penna will never forget the final text message she received from her daughter Amanda.
She sent me a text and said, "Mom, can you give me a ride to work?" And I said, "I can't." And she said, okay, she'd find a ride.
No one could have imagined that just hours later, 20-year-old Amanda Plass would be gone forever.
Homicides happen all the time, but when it happens to you, I would have never thought that my sister was going to be murdered.
What you stumbled upon when you went to Amanda's house, how does that compare to a lot of other homicides you've covered?
In this particular case, there's droplets of blood all around the room, and that's indicative that this was a very, very brutal and harsh fight.
Well, when we were finally able to get into her apartment, they had covered the floor with paper, so we didn't have to see all the blood. So when you're trying to clean out her apartment, as I'm walking across paper to cover my daughter's splattered blood, and then who do you ask to help?
My theory is that the attacker came through the back door. When we found Amanda, she's actually in her work pants, her work clothes. There was no evidence of a sexual assault.
She was found on the kitchen floor, and they do believe she was killed there. So not in a bedroom, not in the living room, and that suggests perhaps an element of surprise.
She just didn't lay down and die. She actually fought back. And when she fought back, underneath her fingernails was possibly DNA, and we're gonna have to match this DNA to someone.
The first person investigators test, Amanda's boyfriend, Seth Green.
I'm gonna do a couple tests. We're just gonna swipe the inside of your cheek, okay?
The interesting thing, we stepped out of the room, but we still observed him. And he'd cry a little bit and then just wonder why he was there.
I can't believe that. So happy with her. What happened, baby?
He had only been dating her for a week, and he was so caught up at this is the best thing that ever happened to his life.
But detectives also receive information that points to someone other than Seth. Amanda had recently told her family that someone had been sneaking into her apartment.
She said, my apartment got broken into again. And I said, well, what did they take? You need to call the police. And she says, no, Mom, all they took was a glass bowl, like a marijuana bowl. I said, well, you still need to call the police. And she said, no, what am I going to do? Tell them my pot got stolen?
Amanda's friends say she suspected an unidentified male was watching her.
She saw him peeking in her back window of her apartment. The window is actually broken, and we surmise that the person possibly had tried to make it look like a break-in. So on that same window, you end up with a palm print. If we can identify the palm print, we can also identify the person that would have been there that particular day.
But among the most important piece of evidence found at the crime scene, a bloody sneaker print.
That footprint showed a sneaker print in blood. You can actually see the Nike impression in that footprint. We had it measured, we had it analyzed. That was very important because it was a smaller shoe, maybe a female, maybe a male. We were looking for a Nike size 7.5 Air Max shoe.
I remember a couple days after she was murdered, everybody had went to her apartment in Chicopee Center and just held a memorial.
The whole front of her building was just a sea of sunflowers.
That was a really intense, emotional time to be in front of the apartment of where she was murdered and just comforting each other, just shocked, not understanding how or why.
And then, a few days after Amanda's murder, there was a funeral.
I just remember it just being beautiful and intense and very heartbreaking. And a lot of sunflowers.
Meanwhile, police aren't giving up on the idea of Amanda's boyfriend Seth as a suspect. Within hours of Amanda's murder, they even go as far as to ask him for the shoes on his feet.
Would you give us permission to look at your shoes?
Yeah, you can take them. Let me take them off now.
Just put up.
Finally, after almost 15 grueling hours, investigators reach a conclusion. Seth Green is not their killer.
His DNA did not match. His shoe print didn't match. His boots were a size 12. It was too large to be the person at the scene.
Clearly, there's some other shoes there that were not mine, and that's the thing that got me released, honestly.
What did that moment feel like for you?
Well, it's definitely a big relief, honestly. Yeah, when they were walking me out was definitely in a moment, finally, like I told you guys a million times, it wasn't me.
What is that like to go through that, to experience the loss and then to have to face that questioning?
I mean, it's unbearable, honestly. It's like, I just called you guys, why are you, trying to blame me for this? I love this girl.
Seth is officially cleared as a suspect and tells cops there's someone else they should be looking at.
She said she had a lot of bad relationships in the past.
Detectives also want to learn about an ex-boyfriend who was allegedly upset after seeing a public display of affection between Seth and Amanda at Friendly's.
While she was working, he had showed up at work and they started making out.
And detectives say that ex's reaction wasn't very friendly at all. So at the very least, you had to consider that he could have had something to do with this.
Very much so. A motive of revenge is in our mind.
What surprised you most about the conversations police were having with you?
It was hard for me to hear them kind of making me feel like they're, asking me questions as if I were the one that did it. Not something I'd ever want anyone to have to go through. It's just horrible.
Any problems last night at all?
So happy. It's just in bed, so She said she had a lot of bad relationships in the past.
Amanda's boyfriend, Seth Green, is fully cleared. But now investigators wonder if one of those previous relationships could be a factor in Amanda's murder. They discover that before Seth, Amanda had been seeing a man named Jesse.
He was a boyfriend of Amanda, basically a week before Seth was. And he also worked at Friendly's.
So at the very least, you had to consider that he could have had something to do with this.
Very much so. Jesse wanted a serious relationship, Amanda didn't. And she finds a new boyfriend.
Police learn of an alleged incident at Friendly's involving Jesse and Amanda's new boyfriend, Seth, that raises alarm bells for authorities.
Friday was the murder. Thursday night, when Jesse's working, Seth shows up at the Friendly's.
Amanda's boss at Friendly's tells police Seth came in and kissed Amanda openly. Jesse saw it, and he looked uncomfortable afterwards. Jesse asked to go home a little later.
Jesse moves up the chain as a very likely suspect. A motive of revenge is in our mind about Jesse.
I want to play some of your interrogation from speaking to Jesse.
So you both worked at Friendly's on that Thursday, right?
Correct.
You left work early, right?
Correct.
You told us you left because they overscheduled you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's not what we heard. We heard that Seth went in there, gave her a kiss that made you uncomfortable.
Seth was in there for like a while.
And he did kiss Amanda in front of you and it made you
Not that
uncomfortable.
I seen them talking. It didn't bother me. I was talking to Seth, but I never physically seen them kiss. Not once.
You knew that Amanda was dating Seth.
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
It sucked, but what are you gonna do?
After he left work, Jesse says he texted Amanda about some items they wanted back from each other now that their relationship was over. But investigators press him about the nature of those messages.
Was there any anger in the text?
Not in that text. I don't believe so.
But there was some anger in some other texts, weren't there?
Yeah. I was just angry at the fact that she just didn't talk to me for a few days, and I was just wondering what was going on. I was just pissed that she wouldn't tell me.
And this is the time that she's now with Seth?
I don't know if I knew about it yet, but she's probably talking to him then.
At this point, you're trying to figure out who might have been involved. How does this information fit into your investigation?
We're looking at the fact of who could have done this, who was angry at her. Because as we look at the scene, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of anger going on. It's not a one and done out the door.
Can we also look at your phone? What'd you do with those text messages that you texted her?
Did you delete them all?
My texts are deleted.
Because you felt they were uncomfortable, or?
First of all, I didn't want to look at any conversation of me and her, just because it made me sad to even think about her.
Why is that?
Because she's murdered.
So you deleted them after you found out she was killed?
I didn't even want to have to look at them. Everything reminds me of her.
As an investigator, what do you make of that?
He's trying to hide something. So now there's obviously texts that he doesn't want investigators to see. Did he delete them because she's dead, or is he part of something that happened to her?
Deleting text messages certainly seems out of the ordinary.
Yes, it does.
Now investigators want to know if Jesse was doing anything out of the ordinary the day of Amanda's murder.
Did you stay home all day?
Most of the day. The only time I really left was to go to Friendly's.
What'd you go there for?
For my check. So.
Did you cash it?
No. Oh, actually, yeah, I did cash it at General's.
How did you get there?
I got a ride.
From who?
Kyle.
He says he goes to General's. We check a tape to verify his story. We learned that Kyle did not drive him there. So Jesse had lied. Jesse, we interviewed you twice already.
Yep.
And were you telling us the truth?
Everything except for about me taking my car to General.
Why weren't you telling the truth about that?
Because I told you guys that I didn't drive my car, and then when we got into the story, I remembered I took my car to General. I just didn't want to go back on my word. I was scared. I don't know. Believe me, I regretted it the second I did it.
You were scared?
Yeah.
What were you scared about?
Just nervous. I've never been interrogated before or anything like that. Never had to deal with anything like this.
Basically, his story is he didn't want to tell his parents he wasn't supposed to be driving. So he's more afraid of his parents than he was of the police. Jesse has lied about who he is with from Friendly's, quite possibly if he's in the car by himself. He could have went by Amanda's and then went to General's.
With questions lingering over Jesse's account, investigators decide to compare his shoes to the bloody shoe prints left at the crime scene.
No, what are those, Vans?
Yeah. I have like 2 pairs of these.
Yeah, that's it.
You want to look at the bottom?
Yeah, the other side.
Ultimately, Jesse's shoes are not a match, and his alibi checks out.
We talked to the people at General's. He's not bloody. He's cashing his check.
Those close to Jesse never thought for a second that he was capable of such a heinous crime. Tell me about Jesse.
Jesse's a great kid. When his name was brought up, that was a absolutely not moment. I've never seen Jesse angry.
Sweetest kid.
And I know that was really intense for Jesse.
Yeah.
I know that was, you know, to be put in that spotlight and to have the whispers, I think that was really hard for him.
With Jesse now fully cleared by authorities, investigators follow another lead. A mysterious vehicle that a witness says she saw speeding away from Amanda's apartment right around the time of the murder.
So to us, it's like, wow, that's big. We're on the lookout for a white sedan.
And a 911 call comes in that might just turn the entire case on its head.
Plymouth Police Court of Dispatch, Daily speaking.
I'd like to call to turn myself in.
Let's know what you're turning yourself in for.
A murder.
Jesse, there's a couple of things that are bothering me here on your statements.
Amanda's ex-boyfriend Jesse raised eyebrows when detectives say he was less than forthcoming with information.
Now, you said you still don't know how she died.
I don't.
You don't. I find that very hard to believe that you have no idea how she died when everybody's talking about it. It's been on the news.
But after determining Jesse had a solid alibi, he was cleared, and investigators with the Chicopee Police and the state police quickly move on. Still unclear who exactly they're searching for.
One of the best clues that investigators find is a shoe print, a sneaker that is a size 7.5 men's shoe, which is very small for men. It's the smallest size you can get in men's shoes. Or it could be a woman's size 9.
Investigators get a new lead from a neighbor of Amanda, a witness who told police she saw a suspicious car the day of the murder outside Amanda's apartment. And so afterwards, as you're learning more about the scene, you learn about this white sedan that's here that peels away at one point.
Right.
Not a common thing to do.
Not a common thing to do. And we actually got that information from the neighbor next door. They remember a white car here, and they just remember a female, single female in the car pulling away at a high rate of speed around the 4:30 hour. And then we identify who that white car was. Ended up being a girl from East Hampton named Mercedes Benz.
That's right, her name is Mercedes Benz. Another friend of Amanda's who works at Friendly's.
Mercedes was a really nice girl. She was a waitress here also, and she was friends with Amanda, and we used to talk to her all the time also.
Now it was police who wanted to talk to Mercedes Benz. Mercedes tells detectives that Amanda had texted her earlier that day asking for a ride to work. She said it was a little after 5 p.m. when she arrived at Amanda's building. This is right around the time police believed Amanda was murdered. Mercedes said she called and texted Amanda to let her know that she'd arrived, but after waiting 5 or 6 minutes, she said she left.
We talked to Mercedes Benz, and she says, well, the reason I had to leave was I had to go to Walmart.
Does that add up for you?
It doesn't add up, because her purpose of coming here all the way from East Hampton was to give a ride to Amanda to work, to Friendly's, which is basically 5 to 10 minutes down the road. So it doesn't make sense. If you pull up here to get her, why would you just leave without even going upstairs?
But what seems like a promising lead fizzles out. That neighbor who saw Mercedes speed away confirms she never got out of her car. And police obtained surveillance footage from Walmart that backs up her timeline. That's her in the white sedan pulling into Walmart. And more footage shows her shopping inside the store.
Mercedes was basically cleared once we were able to get the tape from Walmart.
Frustrated, investigators pushed forward, now casting a very wide net.
I mean, they were taking DNA from everybody and anybody.
We made a point for the medical examiner to make fingernail clippings of her fingernails. On this particular case, it was entered in a database, and there was no convictions for a felony that would have matched it.
With no matches to the DNA collected at the crime scene and no viable suspects, the case stalls. What surprised you most about this time?
I think how tight-lipped they were, whether it was Ronnie Gibbons or Chicopee detectives. Nobody was talking, even to me. Nobody was talking. They were very tight-lipped about certain things.
How did that make you feel?
It was very frustrating at first because I wanted answers. And I would call every Sunday night. I would call down to Chicopee Police Department looking for the detectives. What's the update? What's the update? What's the update? Got nothing to tell you, Michelle. Got nothing to tell you, Michelle. But it's just, at what point is, I never gave up, but you just think, is this going to be a cold case? Will I ever know?
That fear of never getting justice for Amanda was fuel for a fire that was now burning inside Michelle.
My mom made it very clear that she wasn't just gonna let the case go cold.
I didn't give up hope because Michelle never gave up hope. She never gave up. She didn't let anybody else either.
Tell me about how, after this time had passed, that you said, I gotta take matters into my own hands.
I was driving home from work and I saw a billboard, and underneath it was Lamar and Company. And I said, you know what? Mom ain't playing around no more. I called them and emailed them, and next thing I knew, Amanda's billboard went up.
And that's just the beginning, right? You did flyers.
Balloon releases. I even had cards made up, business cards with the text-a-tip number on it. We attached them to the balloons. When we did the balloon releases, one of the balloons ended up 3 hours away, Cape Cod.
Wow.
It's been 18 months and 5 days since Amanda was murdered, so today I'm hoping with the release of these balloons that somebody will come forward.
Somebody knows something that happened that day. It was a busy Friday afternoon. We're just looking for that one missing piece of the puzzle.
She was just in your face. She really was like you would be as a mother. We want to find out what happened to your child, and she was out there. She was gonna find out.
Michelle's a force.
Despite Michelle's efforts to publicize Amanda's case, the investigation continues to languish. Then, a dramatic development. More than a year after the murder, a 911 call comes in that initially stuns police. A man confesses to Amanda's murder.
I like to turn myself in. I live in Plymouth.
Spell your last name.
Do I really have to? I'm turning myself in.
Right, but I have to know what you're turning yourself in for.
For murder.
From where, sir?
From Chicopee. From Amanda Place, and I just can't handle it anymore.
Cops track down the caller, but just like hundreds of other promising leads, the confession is a dead end. The caller was impersonating another man trying to get him in trouble. Neither had any involvement in the murder.
They had read it online, facts about the murder, and once you got through the facts, there was no factual basis to the confession. This is a very frustrating investigation.
And then a discovery that blows the investigation wide open.
And I still remember the night. It was probably at 10 o'clock at night.
I get a call from Ronnie Gibbons.
Michelle, you got that whiteboard from the apartment?
A clue that had been hiding in plain sight all along.
I never heard his name.
Had you ever heard Amanda mention something?
Nope.
Dennis?
Never, not once.
Can you spot the clue on this whiteboard?
Where do you guys want me to start?
Nobody could wrap their head around the fact that Amanda was killed to begin with, let alone trying to think of who could do it.
We had a billboard on 391, a huge billboard with this beautiful picture that she took of herself that day she was murdered.
Somebody knew something, and nobody was talking.
I kept saying, there's no way that there's no DNA. There's just no way. There has to be something.
There was a whiteboard way in the back. On the whiteboard, there was wording in it. Dennis was, W-A-Z, here.
Who's Dennis?
I got goosebumps right now.
I was on the way to the hospital. They had told me 12 hours before I had her that I was having a boy. And Amanda by Boston was on the radio. As her godmother and I drove to the hospital. And when she was born, the nurse looked at me and said, "It's not a boy." So I named her Amanda after the song by Boston.
I'm gonna take you by surprise and make you realize, Amanda,
She was just always bubbly and fun, and she had this big curly hair, and she just, she was a light.
But on that tragic Friday in August, Amanda's bright light was extinguished when she was found brutally murdered in her apartment.
She was laying on the kitchen floor right when I opened the door, just in a pool of blood, stabbed to death.
I got the call to say that we have a homicide and respond to the scene. So I actually responded to the scene initially.
People in the neighborhood were worried. Is someone gonna come to my door and kill me?
You don't even think it's real at first, you know? You're numb to it. Then you're like, oh, okay, maybe something's like amiss. Like maybe this isn't true.
Nobody could wrap their head around the fact that Amanda was killed to begin with, let alone trying to think of who could do it.
At the crime scene, police discover a partial palm print on the broken window and a bloody shoe print in the kitchen near Amanda's body. But with lead after lead coming up empty, the investigation is losing momentum.
They interview hundreds of people who knew her, friends, relatives, coworkers, and there is nothing new under the sun. Unless somebody comes forward with new information, this case is going to grow cold.
I think there's this impression sometimes that a murder happens, police will solve it in months. Some cases, they take time, they linger. Was that frustrating for you?
It was very frustrating because, you know, as time goes on, and you have to realize that in 2011, when this occurred, time didn't stop. Investigations didn't stop. Crime didn't stop. So we were working other cases as well.
I was getting nervous that her case was going cold.
Somebody knows something that happened that day. We're just looking for that one missing piece of the puzzle.
Amanda's mother, Michelle, takes matters into her own hands, organizing benefits, balloon releases. She even got a massive billboard with Amanda's picture put up on the highway.
I wanted people driving down the highway and seeing my daughter's face. Somebody knew something, and nobody was talking.
But then, a little more than a year after the murder, the story takes a strange turn. Rumors are swirling in Chicopee about graphic crime scene photos seen at a high school football game.
New details on the Chicopee police officers accused of taking pictures of murder victim Amanda Plass's body.
It was June 10th of 2013. I will never forget. There was a news conference. It was the then mayor who was appointing a new chief of police and said that they were investigating a crime scene photo leak by 2 of the Chicopee police officers.
My heart just sank. What do you mean police officers were taking pictures of the crime scene and sharing them?
2 Chicopee police officers who had been assigned to protect the crime scene took photos of Amanda's body with their personal phones, and adding insult to injury, they forwarded the pictures to other officers, and it was shown to coaches at a high school football game.
Everyone, the whole newsroom was, how could anyone do this? How could an officer do this?
Michelle sued the police department and the city, claiming emotional abuse suffered at the hands of the Chicopee PD.
They sued him for $10 million. I sued the city, the police department. I sued them all. It wasn't about the money. It was about proving a point.
An internal affairs investigation called the behavior an affront to the professionalism otherwise demonstrated by Chicopee and the state investigators in this case. The officers responsible were disciplined by the police department.
They were there to protect the scene, and at my daughter's most vulnerable moments, you disrespect her in the worst way ever and think that's okay. I was mad.
At the same time Michelle's dealing with the photo controversy, she's campaigning tirelessly to keep Amanda's murder case front and center. What was it like for you to have to handle questions about that controversy while at the same time what you're really focused on is finding your daughter's killer?
Yeah, and I think that's what's the hard part of it all. I didn't want the controversy to overshadow the fact that we still did not have justice for Amanda. We were still looking and begging for that end to be closed.
Investigators working on Amanda's case had no involvement in the alleged scandal. Frustrated by the lack of progress, they go back to square one, reviewing everything from scratch.
We would try to keep saying, what do we miss? What do we miss? What do we miss?
And then a breakthrough. While reviewing photos of the crime scene, investigators spot a potentially critical clue that had been overlooked, hiding in plain sight in Amanda's bedroom.
We come upon, in a scene where the table is at, there was a whiteboard way in the back. On the whiteboard, there was wording in it, Dennis was, W-A-Z, here, 8/11/11.
The grisly murder took place in the kitchen, but the whiteboard was in Amanda's bedroom, which appeared undisturbed, and they missed the clue.
I get a call from Ronnie Gibbons, and it was like 9:45 at night.
Michelle, you got that whiteboard from the apartment?
I said, yeah, it's in the closet. He said, I'll be over in 5 minutes. I gotta grab it.
After more than 2 years, investigators finally had a name. But the answer to the question, who is Dennis, only brings more mystery. This Dennis was here on this whiteboard. This is a huge clue for your case.
This is a big clue.
Why?
Because Dennis' name had never come up in the investigation.
Now we're scrolling through Amanda's Facebook going, who's Dennis?
She didn't know. Amy Lay didn't know.
Her friends were calling me going, Dennis. Nobody knew who Dennis was.
Amanda's friend Desiree said, through force of sheer will, you kept her name out there. How difficult was that?
It was difficult. It takes a toll. And there are some nights where you just, again, you don't want to be that mom. But then something else would pop up and you'd be like, okay, let me call Trooper Gibbons. It was tough. It was very tough.
I had Michelle that was calling me at 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, mad and angry. You gotta do something. You gotta do something.
There was never a time where Ronnie did not show up at my house without a smile on his face. The only side that I saw was the compassionate side, the side that said, I'm here to the end.
It was a Wednesday night in October, more than 2 years after the murder, when Detective Gibbons was the one making a late-night phone call to Michelle.
It was October 30th, 2013, 9:45 at night. I get a call from Ronnie Gibbons. Hey, you still got that whiteboard from Amanda's apartment? I said, yeah, it's in the closet. He said, I'll be over in 5 minutes. I got to grab it.
The discovery of a name hiding in plain sight on a whiteboard in Amanda's apartment kickstarts an investigation that, frankly, had been on life support. Now the question everyone is asking, who's Dennis?
No one knew Dennis.
Had you ever heard Amanda mention someone
Nope.
named Dennis?
Never, not once.
I never heard his name.
The detectives told me right when they found it, asking me if I knew the name. I'm like, no idea.
It is such a long shot, but they zone in on that and they decide they need to find out who Dennis is.
One of the things that was missing was her cell phone. We went back to her cell phone records. We came out that there was phone calls for a number. They came back to a Dennis Rosa Roman. I immediately recognized the name because about a year before, I had actually arrested Dennis Rosa Roman.
Gibbons had arrested Rosa Roman on a misdemeanor charge of disorderly conduct. Rosa Roman pled guilty and paid a fine. But now Gibbons knew exactly who Dennis Rosa Roman was. The question, was this the same Dennis whose name was on that whiteboard?
You have anything further you want to tell us?
A possible answer could lie in one of the police interviews with Amanda's ex-boyfriend, Jesse.
While Jesse was still dating Amanda, Amanda had told him that she thinks her apartment had been broken into while she was at work.
She thought it was some kid that she had met and bought weed off of.
Jesse described him as being shorter. Jesse's probably like 5'10", 6 feet.
He's got to live like somewhere within like 2-second walk. I remember I used to see him walking around like that area all the time.
Jesse said Amanda told him she had hung out with the person once before, but he had no idea where. Now Detective Gibbons is wondering if the man Jesse had been describing in that interview could have been Dennis Rosa Roman. Amanda lives about a half a block away from this park. She used to hang out here, right?
Yeah, this is like a hangout for the neighborhood. And we learned later on, this is kind of like where Dennis would hang out during the daytime because he just didn't work.
So they might have come across each other in this park just in passing in the neighborhood.
Exactly, exactly.
In the time since Amanda's murder, Dennis Rosa Roman had moved from Chicopee to nearby Westfield, Massachusetts. Gibbons decides to pay him a visit. So now we're headed to Westfield, Massachusetts. Why is that significant?
That's very significant because once we found Dennis was here on the whiteboard and his number is on the phone, we want to locate Dennis.
What's your expectation going there? What are you trying to achieve?
The plan was to knock on his door and talk to him, just like we had talked to over 50 other people in the case, as well as to get his shoe size, as well as to get his DNA. I go to the apartment, ring the doorbell, no answer, and next thing you know, I see from a side alleyway that's between the building, Dennis come out.
And what happens next?
Beautiful timing, but here he is, he comes right around the corner.
Just walking right to you.
Walking right to us. So I stop him and then say, hey Dennis, you got a moment? We want to talk to you about Chicopee. We want to talk about a girl named Amanda Plass.
Yeah.
His first thing is, he kind of chuckles, he says, oh no, I don't go to Chicopee, it's too dangerous there. And I say, well, how about this girl Amanda Plass? And he says, oh, I don't know Amanda at all. So I know that from the phone records, yes, he does know Amanda Plass.
In fact, Gibbons knew from those phone records that there were 9 calls between Dennis and Amanda. Dennis had called Amanda 5 times just a month before the murder.
I said, hey, can we go to the police station? He said, no, I got something I got to do. I noticed him light up a cigarette, and he's smoking on a cigarette. And now I'm thinking, wow, maybe I can get DNA off this cigarette that he's smoking.
Although Gibbons had arrested Rosa Roman a year prior, because he had never been convicted of a felony, his DNA was never entered into the national database. Gibbons says Rosa Roman didn't want to talk to him that day and began to walk away, but not before he tossed the cigarette he was smoking on the sidewalk.
Meanwhile, I told my partners, go to my car, get a paper bag, give me some rubber gloves. Dennis sees that because he keeps looking back. My partners come back with rubber gloves. He sees me put them on. He sees that paper bag. He sees me reach down and put that inside that bag.
Two days later, Dennis Rosa Roman is sitting in an interview room at the Westfield Police Department.
So your first name is Dennis, right?
Yes, D-E-N-N-I-S.
Engaging in a high-stakes game of cat and mouse with investigators.
I don't feel right doing this at all, but I have to do it. You don't even understand. I'm trying to save my life here.
Outside his home, Dennis Rosa Roman appears to be acting cool and calm with detectives. Until he sees them pick up his cigarette butt off the street. Clearly he's concerned, because not long after they leave, he calls Lieutenant Ronald Gibbons.
After seeing me take that cigarette butt, he's now blowing my phone up. Hey, you and I gotta talk.
You say you really need to talk to today. Yeah, like seriously. Where do you guys want me to start?
Where they want him to start when they meet with the cameras rolling is very simple. Does he know Amanda Plass?
You knew her? I met her. I didn't know her that long, but I knew her of her.
You know her first name?
Amanda.
How much before did you meet her that she passed?
Say like a week or two.
Okay.
2 weeks the most.
So you know her about a week or two before she got killed?
Yeah.
He didn't know Amanda at all. And then he comes around to say that, okay, I did know Amanda, but I would sell her weed.
I met her by Family's out there in Tedeschi and Chicopee. Okay. You know where that's at? So I seen her, you know, she asked me if I could get some bud.
How many times previously did you get weed for her?
It's only been like 3 times, the most.
You ever been to her apartment?
Like up the stairs, and that's about it. I've never stepped in her house. I've never seen the inside of her house.
As Dennis is talking, he notices detectives checking out his sneakers.
Like my shoes?
Yeah, Nikes.
Air Maxes.
What he wears into the station that particular day is this black Air Max shoe. And we took the aha moment to say, you know what, can you take off your shoe and I'm gonna take a picture of your shoe.
Oh, my feet stink, I'm sorry.
Because the crime scene itself had imprint in blood.
The print that you found on the scene, what size was that?
That was a size 7.5 Nike shoe.
And what size is the shoe that we're looking at?
This is a size 7.5 Nike shoe.
Remember, detectives have had no luck matching those bloody shoe prints to previous suspects. So according to Gibbons, this is potentially damning if confirmed, but still not as conclusive as a DNA match to what was found under Amanda's fingernails. So Gibbons says they get Rosa Roman to agree to a DNA mouth swab.
Just, you know, open your mouth, just gonna rub that inside of your lip. And so do the other side.
Gibbons says he wants Rosa Roman directly tested in case that cigarette butt sample might somehow be contaminated.
Doing great. Under your tongue.
There's a really big difference between you thinking, hey, I think we got our guy, and you lining it up with the evidence.
This is a matter of facts.
So the day that this all happened, what happened that day?
So, Rosa Roman starts telling detectives his version of what happened the day Amanda was killed.
I brought her some weed.
Did she call you like that day? Or?
Yeah, she called me that day. She said, yo, can you give me a dime bag? She was not the one that came to the door. Like, the guy opened the door, he just said, yo, give me that, and that's it. And I went about my way.
What Dennis says is that this other guy was at the apartment.
I didn't bother to say anything to the guy. The guy looked suspect, like, he looked suspicious.
He answers detectives' questions about what he says the man looked like.
I'm 6 feet, so what do you think?
5'10", maybe.
Oh, he's taller than you?
Taller than me, obviously, yeah. He has, like, dirty blondish hair.
Would you say white?
Yeah, he's white. Say he weighs, like, about 170, 190 the most, almost 200 pounds.
And goes on to describe what he claims he heard while outside the apartment.
I'm listening to this guy's like, I want my money. I didn't give you this for no reason. Why would you do this to me?
That was the guy's voice?
Yeah.
You're asking him questions about the description of the man who made these comments from inside the apartment. Why are you asking him about that?
Because I want to lock him into a story. Will you be consistent with that story, or you go on another tangent.
So the guy said something to her like, I want my money, I didn't do this, I want my money.
I didn't do this for nothing.
For nothing?
Right.
Did you hear her voice?
No, I didn't. I didn't hear nothing.
Rosa Roman is consistent. Even though Gibbons says he is convinced Rosa Roman is making up his story.
That's all about everything I know, and I can't say no more, no less. You know what I'm saying? Truly, I'm sorry, guys. I'm actually helping you guys. You know what I'm saying?
You're very helpful.
Yeah,
Because you know what? Not too many people have told us that they saw the guy there, you know? So that you're aces with me, you know?
I didn't have enough to arrest him at this point. I had to allow him to leave.
Thank you very much.
One interview ends, but Rosa Roman isn't done answering questions. 2 days later,
This picture is inside her apartment. You ever seen this room?
it's a photo of that whiteboard. What will Rosa Roman have to say when he's shown his name is on it?
And see right here, it says Dennis was here. Dennis, thank you very much for coming in.
Fine, dude.
And you've been very cooperative with us, and we appreciate that.
Dennis Rosa Roman agrees to another interview.
I wish I knew more to help you guys.
Repeating the story detectives say they don't believe, that he never entered Amanda Plass's apartment the day of her murder after he claims some man answered her door.
I'm gonna give her some leave. It's like, well, she's busy right now, and I give it to him, he shuts the door dumb hard in my face, and that's it. It's like, okay, this guy's mad, and I'm about to leave, like, and I left. You know what I'm saying?
But Rosa Roman says that was long enough for the man to recognize him.
I feel like this guy's just gonna run into me one day and just like try to say something to me or hurt me or something, and that's when I'm gonna peel my ass to the police station. Like,
Yeah. Is that because he saw you that day?
like this guy knows what I look like.
But what Rosa Roman doesn't know is that Gibbons is expecting critical evidence to the case to come back at any moment. The results from his DNA swab.
You were asking about this picture, right?
Yeah. I want to see.
So before that happens, Gibbons confronts Rosa Roman for the first time about that all-important whiteboard where it says Dennis was here.
This picture is inside her apartment. You ever seen this room?
First time I'm seeing it.
We said, first time I'm seeing it. And then, well, how about this? This whiteboard that's in the back room.
And see right here, it says Dennis was here.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. I wrote my name on that.
You wrote your name on that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that. I wrote my name on that.
So he's admitting to you that that's his name on the whiteboard.
You've told me all this time you've never been in an apartment, and now I got you in there.
So you signed Dennis was here.
Right.
You didn't put the date.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I don't even know why that's there. I don't.
Yeah. But you remember this dry erase board?
Yeah, I do remember.
Where was the dry erase board?
That was in the back of, you know, the door where you come in.
Yeah.
It was right there, and I.
As he is confronted with the evidence, he shapeshifts. He manages to keep changing his story to try to ameliorate the facts in front of him. There are certain kind of people who can make up things on the fly and change their narrative based on the clues that are being given to them.
When you say you never been inside her place.
Well, I have been in her house, but like, I just don't want people to like look at me like if I'm a murderer.
So now this is the first time that he actually puts himself in the apartment.
But you went in the apartment. How many other times have you been inside the apartment?
Twice. 2 times, that's it.
And what were they for?
To bring her weed and smoke the bowl and sign this.
So the room that you were in were that back room?
The kitchen and the back room, that's about it.
The back room was where the whiteboard was.
So what are you putting together at this point?
I'm putting together at this point that he, in fact, had not only been in that back room, he'd also been in the kitchen at some point where the crime occurred.
Remember, Amanda had told friends she suspected someone had broken into her apartment, and Dennis says she had asked him about that.
You said that Amanda approached you about somebody breaking into her place?
Yeah. She asked me, like, yo, somebody came into my house. Do you guys know? And I was like, well, I really don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Now Gibbons suspects that someone was Rosa Roman. Then, a few minutes later, a huge development. the detectives get called to leave the interrogation room.
How much longer is this going to take? 5 minutes. All right.
Outside, they get the news the DNA results are in. Rosa Roman is a match for what was found under Amanda's fingernails. They soon drop that bombshell on him directly.
The DNA that was found under her fingernails connects you to her. And you know what? It doesn't just get there.
Dennis is now thinking in his mind, how do I get out of this?
And what he tells them next totally flips the story on its head. He now claims he tried to save Amanda.
I know the murderer, and I tried to save her life.
What's he trying to do here?
He's trying to create a situation of why we have his DNA, why his DNA is possibly on her.
He's casting himself almost as the hero in this.
Yes, he is.
Well, why don't you tell us everything that happened in the apartment?
I know the murderer. That's all I know. I can't give you no more. I'm sorry. That's
You
it.
said he tried
I want a
to-
lawyer.
But
I want a lawyer.
okay.
Gibbons says asking for a lawyer stops the interrogation room recording immediately. So you don't see the scuffle that he says breaks out when detectives handcuff Rosa Roman and place him under arrest.
You don't have to be aggressive with me, dude. You didn't have to be that aggressive.
And then they have him booked. He's charged with first-degree murder. This is over 2 years after Amanda was killed. They tell you, we are making an arrest.
Yep.
What did you think?
Finally. Finally. You know, you always wonder why. Why?
Dennis, though, is admitting nothing.
What are you guys trying to do? Pin me for this murder, too? My DNA may be on her body, my DNA may be at the house, but you guys really don't know what went down.
But after he's transported from the Westfield Police Department to Chicopee, he's about to explain.
He demanded to speak to myself and Watson again. So he didn't come to the door. You actually went inside.
I went inside. I barged in.
Was the door open?
The door was unlocked.
As Rosa Roman tells them the newest version of his story, he now claims when he hears the commotion inside Amanda's apartment, he rushes in and fights the man he says was trying to kill her.
What do you see when you get to the kitchen?
I see the guy on top of her.
When you say he was on top of her, where was she at?
She was on the floor.
What are you doing?
I'm tussling with the guy, trying to get the knife out of his hand, and he's just like thrusting it forward towards me, and I'm like trying to back up, and I try to like grab Amanda, and she scratched me. Yeah, she got some skin off of me, but that's because I was trying to save her.
That's right. Rosa Roman now claims he tried to save Amanda's life. This is the key to his new story. His explanation for why his DNA is under Amanda's fingernails, even though he says he didn't kill her.
And after that, me and him were tussling, and the guy punches me in the jaw, and I run out the door.
And that's what his story was, that this guy is now following him around town. He's now being threatened by this guy because this guy doesn't want the truth to come out. What did he tell you?
Yo, you snitch on me, I'm gonna kill you. Just like that. Like, I know I killed her, and that's it. It's done.
But now, Rosa Roman has to tell that story in court.
The trial of the man accused of killing 20-year-old Amanda Plass is getting underway today in Springfield.
And he says he can identify who Amanda's killer is.
Amanda Plass's parents sat hand in hand with Justice for Amanda bracelets on as they waited for the murder trial of their 20-year-old daughter to begin.
I think I broke down more so in the courtroom, just looking at him.
It's kind of hard to describe how it felt to see him for the first time. It's like a fever dream. Like, is this really happening? But my mind was not on him. My mind is on my sister.
When I was selected for the jury, it was surreal. It was definitely a bit of a, oh my God, what am I in for? The home that Amanda lived in was 2 houses from where my mother grew up and my grandmother lived. It just became very personal.
The evidence in this case will show that on Friday, August 26, 2011, Amanda Plass was brutally murdered in her home. Miss Class was getting ready to go to work when the defendant came into her apartment while she was getting ready and stabbed her 6 times.
Prosecutors lay out their case against Dennis Rosa Roman. There are the bloody footprints in his shoe size, his palm print on the broken window, and his DNA under Amanda's fingernails. They argue that Dennis, and only Dennis, committed this crime.
1 set of bloody footprints. 1 major male DNA profile underneath both her right hand and left hand fingernails. 1 killer, 1 defendant.
They literally took us from A to B to C to D. They laid out every single piece of evidence. They correlated every piece of evidence to him.
In addition to the physical evidence, prosecutors also used Dennis's own words against him.
And see right here, it says Dennis was here. Oh yeah, I do remember that. I wrote my name on that.
Each time he's confronted with evidence, he changes his story to fit the evidence.
I think it was important for them to see the 3 interviews because it showed Dennis as agreeing to some of the facts, denying some of the facts, and then coming around and changing his stories repeatedly.
But while the prosecution says the evidence proves Dennis's guilt, the defense argues that it isn't what it seems.
He was in her apartment when Amanda Class was killed. He did not do it, but he knows the guy who did it.
The last story he told was that he was there with another man and he saw the other man kill Amanda, but he will never give the name because he was afraid the killer would kill his family.
And he tells you how many times he's afraid for himself, he's afraid for his family. Charge me, I'm not giving up his name. My name pops up, meaning if they capture him, if my name pops up, he's gonna kill me.
Dennis's version of events kept changing over those 3 police interviews. In his final one, Dennis had a new detail for detectives, that the alleged killer was none other than his own drug dealer.
Your dealer went to her house?
Yeah.
Your dealer?
My dealer.
The 2 of you walk in the house together?
Yeah.
He had said he was there because he had given Amanda pot and she had not paid. So he said that the drug dealer killed Amanda and he saw it.
Yelling like, yo, why are you doing this? I'm gonna get you your money. And I try to grab her and she like grabs my arm and he's just keep going and going and going and going.
What do you mean he's going and going? He's stabbing her?
Keep continuously stabbing her and she just collapsed on the floor after I separated her.
Think she was dead?
I know she was dead. I was just thinking to myself like, how do I get myself out of this?
The defense strategy was basically that the police should look further.
They continually brought up other people to say, well, it could have been them, or it was them, or it was this, or just to try to have a sense of doubt.
After 8 days of testimony, the fate of Dennis Rosa Roman now rests with the jury.
When we retired to the jury room to deliberate, we took a photo of Amanda. It was a close-up of her face with her smile, and we hung that in the jury room just so we could remember why we were there and what this was all about.
It was hard. You don't ever want to think of your best friend going through something that awful. And that was her final moments.
Yeah.
And then bringing that into the trial, it was just...
It's terrible.
It's terrible. To this day, it's just... there's no words.
After only 5 hours of deliberation, the jury reaches a verdict.
We were sitting in the DA's office in the break room, and next thing you know, you hear running down the hall that the jury came back.
Breaking news this hour, a guilty verdict today in the Amanda Plass murder trial.
The jury today found Dennis Rosa Roman guilty of first-degree murder.
We had a couple jurors who weren't quite sure. One of them wanted to review a bunch of evidence again, and his commentary the whole time was, look at him, he's lying, he keeps changing his answers. And we very quickly came to a unanimous decision that Dennis was guilty.
When that moment you felt?
Relief, definite relief. Now I can put an end to this chapter.
Despite a guilty verdict, there's still the unanswered question hanging over this case. And that's, why did Dennis Rosa Roman kill Amanda Plass in the first place? Dennis Rosa Roman has been found guilty of the murder of Amanda Plass. But the one mystery that still remains is motive.
I don't know why. There's only one person who knows why. And he never spoke, so that's definitely the hardest of it. There wasn't a bad bone in that child's body. She never did anything wrong to anybody.
Lieutenant Gibbons has developed his own theory as to why he believes Dennis Rosa Roman murdered Amanda. He says he learned during the investigation that there was a bag of marijuana inside Amanda's apartment left behind by someone else. Gibbons says investigators were never able to find that bag and suspects Dennis broke in looking to steal it.
Dennis is a low-level dealer in the neighborhood. My theory is that he wanted to steal that weed that was in the apartment, and Amanda was a victim of circumstances that she happened to be there when he arrived.
Before Rosa Roman is sentenced, Amanda's mother, surrounded by family, tearfully addresses the court.
On August 26, 2011, my world was forever changed. My pain does not end here, but my healing begins.
I think at that point, it was finally my time to tell him, you took something precious from this world, and I hope you never see the light of day again.
There is no amount of time that will ever bring Amanda back. I would like to ask the court to hand out the highest sentence possible of life without parole.
It's the justice Michelle Pena has spent more than 5 years fighting for.
Court has hereby sentenced you to the Massachusetts Correctional Institution in Cedar Junction for the term of your natural life without the possibility of parole.
As you look at him and you see that he's getting life without parole, what emotions are going through you at that time?
It was a relief knowing that we were finally at another closing point.
Did you feel like justice had been served?
No, justice will never be served because she's dead and he's not.
As for those officers who snapped those photos of Amanda's body at her most vulnerable moment, the mayor of Chicopee released a written apology. Michelle also reached a resolution in the lawsuit she filed.
Plass's family sued the city of Chicopee and the police department. The lawsuit was settled for $110,000.
Michelle continued her fight and helped pass Amanda's Law.
The bill bans first responders from taking and sharing unauthorized pictures of crime victims.
For an officer to want, in that moment, to take a picture of a scene like that, it makes my stomach turn. My mom wanted to make it known that you're never doing that again.
Today, Michelle keeps Amanda's memory alive by sharing her story with college students.
This is about the path that I have taken, the path that has helped me to my healing process. I want people to know that the grief never goes away, but dealing with it or trying to deal with it or put a Band-Aid on it enough to get you through every day is what you have to do.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Oh, these are great. That's her and Brandon. Brandon is my son. See just how the happiness on his face and her big smile. I have always said that Amanda passing kind of saved my life because I knew that I wanted to make her proud. She really helped me become the woman who I am today.
She was just a very kind person and wanted to help the world be better, and that's just something I hope everyone can try to do, you know.
Do you feel like she's
Oh
with
yeah.
you now?
Oh, absolutely. All the time.
If you could have one more minute with her, one more second to say something to her, what would you say?
What she always said and what she always did. Keep your face to the sun and never look back at your shadows. Just like her precious sunflowers.
Dennis Rosa Roman appealed his conviction, but it was denied. And David, even though he was sentenced to life without parole, there's still a chance he could walk free one day as early as 2028.
A Massachusetts court has ruled that it's unconstitutional to sentence offenders under the age of 21 to life without parole. Rosa Roman was 20 at the time of Amanda's murder. Her family tells 2020 they plan to fight this new ruling. That's our program for tonight. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. From all of us here at ABC News and 2020, good night. Tonight, I go back home to Georgia to look into the death of a young wife.
That Atlanta wife murdered as she opened her very own front door. An all-new 2020 starts right now.
This is a true murder mystery. Emphasis on murder, emphasis on mystery.
I felt like Lita's murder case looks like a true crime story, but it goes a lot deeper.
Who would kill this woman? She wasn't robbed. Somebody came to the door with roses and shot her dead.
Was there a feeling that this had to be pretty calculated?
She was shot with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
No obvious suspect.
Was she at all concerned about the fact that she was in an interracial marriage and that this was a difficult time in the South?
It was not a welcoming place for a black woman to live.
She said, I'm done. I'm packing up my stuff.
I want you to see the puzzle. When I put it together and I show it to you, you'll never forget it.
Your wife's best friend has been murdered, and police are looking at you. It's a chilly, drizzly winter Atlanta morning, and 35-year-old Lita McClinton is suddenly awakened.
It's around 8:15 in the morning, and she heard the doorbell ring. And she tightens up her rope and goes downstairs to open the door.
And I think she was probably not going to open it, but she looked through the keyhole and saw that the person had a box of flowers.
There was a man standing at the door, holding a long white box of long stem roses that had a big, thick pink ribbon around it.
So she receives the flowers, thinking that this is a delivery.
She was really excited. She thought that it was a gift from one of her friends.
In a sea of red brick townhouses, Lita's white one stands out. Her best friend Poppy and 3-year-old daughter have spent the night, and they are still in bed upstairs, just waking up.
Poppy hears her say, "Good morning," to the man at the door.
The flower delivery man produces a handgun. He fires a shot.
She actually put the box of roses in front of her face. The second shot went right through the center of her head, and she fell with a large thud.
Lita's friend Poppy was upstairs with her toddler, and right away she grabbed her daughter and hid her into a closet and said, "You gotta be quiet as a mouse." She didn't know if the gunman was gonna come for her. Lita's neighbor hears the shots, then sees the guy running like a bat out of hell, just booking it out of the complex, and he calls 911.
The first police officer is only a few blocks away, and he gets the call, and so that police officer ends up holding Lita's hand. They thought Lita was completely unconscious, and yet she managed to squeeze his hand as he kept comforting her and telling her everything was going to be okay. And he said it was her comforting him. Poppy got out of the closet and called Lita's mother, and she couldn't get words out, and she finally just said, "Lita's been shot." Lita's mother called her husband. When they went to the hospital, they were put in a separate little waiting room. The doctor tended to Lita, and he came out about 30 minutes later and said, "I'm sorry."
Never get easier because she's gone. We should have gone first, not her.
Atlanta's exclusive Buckhead neighborhood is known for its sprawling mansions, not murder. So when the shooting happened right here, neighbors were shocked and on edge.
Sullivan was found in the doorway of her townhouse, shot twice in the head.
It's pretty surprising that in this area, those kinds of things probably wouldn't happen.
How did you learn that Lita had been killed?
I ran to the TV because I heard Sullivan on Slayton Drive. Police say a box of roses was found near her body. The gunman apparently posed as a delivery man. And I said, "Oh my God, that's Lita."
Detectives on the scene found a bullet fragment, 2 shell casings, and the box of roses.
2 gunshots from a 9mm penetrated the box. The weapon was never found. To this day, it's never been found.
In this case, you had just a minor amount of evidence.
At the time, it was the top story on the news, and law enforcement officers felt a great deal of pressure in order to bring Lita's killer to justice.
For years, Lita's case was cold, buried underneath the weight of unanswered questions and fading memories.
I'm Deb Miller-Landau, and I just wrote a book called A Devil Went Down to Georgia about the murder of Lita McClinton Sullivan. I covered this story for Atlanta Magazine back in 2004, and the more people I talked to, the more that I researched, the more I felt like I began to know Lita. So talking about the day that she died feels personal.
The case was also personal to Clint Rucker, the prosecutor. When I came to Atlanta to meet up with him, I learned that one of his passions is puzzles, working from the outside in, which also translates to solving homicides. Where do you begin? How do you start to connect?
When I'm putting together a puzzle, not only in real life, but also a murder case, I make an assessment about what it is I'm working with. I start to identify pieces of the puzzle that are foundational.
Lita's murder case looks like a true crime story, but it goes a lot deeper. It's a story about love and loss and greed.
Lita had been reared in Atlanta's black elite.
On the surface, she was living an Atlanta dream.
A prosperous upbringing.
A very prosperous upbringing. The expectations for her life were pretty high.
Black women have had to be exceptional in order to be seen. And that was the case then, and I think it's still the case now.
One thing seems certain, a murder of this kind is personal.
Was there a feeling that this had to be pretty calculated?
Police knew almost immediately Lita Sullivan was the intended victim.
Who would kill this woman? She wasn't robbed. Somebody came to the door with roses and shot her dead.
Atlanta had its fair share of crime, but this was most certainly one of the highest profile cases that got reported in the news.
Sullivan was shot twice in the head. A box of roses found next to her body.
Using a flower delivery man and shooting her, it was something that just kind of stuck out to me.
Atlanta, Georgia, billed as a vibrant melting pot, a destination for creatives. But if you grew up in Georgia in the 1970s, as I did, you know this was a very different place then. One still emerging from the dark shadows of segregation and racial tensions. What was 1970s Atlanta like when she was sort of coming along?
We've got African Americans that are kind of ascending into really prominent positions. Lita also is ascending because her parents are part of this movement.
Lita's parents, Emory and Joanne McClinton, were both power players, movers and shakers in Atlanta.
Emory McClinton was on the State Board of Transportation. Joanne McClinton was a member of the Georgia legislature.
Joanne will tell you stories about being in really interpersonal meetings with Dr. King.
She was the Maynard Jackson's campaign manager when he ran for mayor.
I think the McClintons had high expectations for who Lita would become. Lita Sullivan was a true daughter of Atlanta.
She was just a gem, very, very proper.
And she had grown up in a world of cotillions, so she really was sort of that classic upper crust black person growing up in Atlanta.
She knew where she was going.
She had a great sense of style.
And absolutely charming.
After high school, she went on to Spelman College. Her parents sort of hoped that she would enter the political arena like they were, but she was very much into fashion. She was working at a boutique at Lenox Square, and in walks this guy who had unruly curls and weird glasses and just immediately saw Lita and was taken with her.
Fresh out of college, 24-year-old Lita is smitten with James, Jim Sullivan. He's a bit older, 35, and he's also white.
He showered her with gifts. He just completely showered her with attention.
He comes in, he dazzles her. What did you learn about him?
I learned that what he saw was a fantasy in Lita. I think he looked at her as a young, very attractive, very smart African-American female.
Another big difference between them is class. Lita has been raised in Atlanta's high society and Jim on Boston's gritty South Side.
He grew up in a very middle to lower middle class environment.
He went to Holy Cross College, got a bachelor's degree in economics.
He always wanted more for himself. He always wanted to be a rich person, but it didn't seem like that was in the cards. He was an accountant. He was working hard, but he really wasn't getting ahead.
But life is about to change for Jim Sullivan when he inherits a thriving liquor distributorship from his uncle, worth millions of dollars.
Crown Beverages was worth around $3.2 million. Jim had become a wealthy man. So when the McClintons met Jim for the first time, they were like, who is this guy? He had this kind of manner that was very uncouth and brash, and they were sort of mystified about what their daughter saw in him. I mean, I think the only thing they had in common was that he was Catholic and they were Catholic as well. But everything else was complete polar opposites.
Another concern, of course, was race. Remember, this is the 70s. Even though the country is watching color barriers slipping away on the hit show The Jeffersons, with Primetime's first interracial couple.
Your parents have never gotten over the fact that I'm white.
That's because you never got over being white.
At that time, this was unusual.
Georgia's anti-miscegenation laws that forbade blacks and whites to marry had only been repealed 10 years earlier.
Still, despite their obvious differences, Jim Sullivan pops the question to Lita.
So the McClintons were like, you cannot marry this man.
They felt like Lita was really making a mistake and was kind of caught up in the exuberance of this relationship.
Despite her parents' strong objections, Lita and Jim are engaged. But on the eve of her wedding, Jim drops a bomb.
He tells Lita that he has been married before and that he has 4 children. Lita was shocked.
And then, the very same night, Jim Sullivan blindsides his bride-to-be again.
He whips out a piece of paper and he says, "Can you sign this?" And then she looks down and sees that he's drawn up a prenuptial agreement. And she's like, "What is this?"
Apparently determined to protect his newfound wealth, Sullivan surprises Lita with a prenup, which says that in the event of a divorce, she would walk away with virtually nothing. She's reluctant, but the cake is ordered, the flowers are ready, so Lita signs the agreement and ties the knot anyway.
Lita got married in 1976. It was a small ceremony in Macon, Georgia. Joanne McClinton would later describe that as the worst day of her life.
The newlyweds settle some 80 miles south of Atlanta near Jim's business in Macon. It's a world away from Atlanta. But Lita agrees to give up her current job and her income and become full-time Mrs. Jim Sullivan.
They bought a house in Shirley Hills, a very affluent, very white part of Macon. Joanne and Emery McClinton feared for their daughter. Being part of an interracial couple in Macon, Georgia in the 1970s would have been extraordinarily challenging. The neighbors were like, "You have the gall to bring a black wife to Shirley Hills." People threw garbage on their doorstep.
The out-and-out racism had to be tough for Lita. But she moves forward and makes some new connections and friends, including Yvette Miller.
When Lita and Yvette occasionally go out to eat, she notices something a bit curious.
We'd go out to lunch at a nice restaurant, and she couldn't pay the bill. And I would end up picking up the check.
And they were a wealthy couple.
They were very wealthy.
Then one Christmas season, a card arrives in the mail addressed to Jim. Lita opens it, and what she discovers will make her question everything. Lita and Jim Sullivan's first few months of marriage seemed to be going well.
They were both intelligent, both attractive, definitely upper class, high society.
But just beneath the surface, there's some obvious cracks.
They seemed to be loving at first.
At first?
He was not that nice to her, and he was not that kind to her.
Was he brusque? Was he brash?
He was a bit arrogant. Even though he had all of these resources, he did not, in my opinion, take care of his wife.
Friends say that the once generous millionaire has suddenly become a miser.
He was notoriously cheap.
He would wear his dead uncle's clothes around the house. He would use the sheath from the dry cleaning as saran wrap in the kitchen. He didn't want Lita to work, but he kept her on a very tight allowance where he gave her $150 a week.
Did she express any discontentment with her marriage?
When we were at those restaurants, Jim just does not give me enough money to take care of me and the house. You know, she clearly was not happy.
Was there talk of infidelity?
Lita had several instances where she questioned whether or not her husband was actually having an affair.
One day she finds a long blonde hair in their master bathroom, and she asks Jim about it, and he says, "I don't know what you're talking about." They got into this cycle of, she accused him of philandering. He would deny it, and then he would buy her sort of an expensive jewelry apology.
Then, during the holidays one year, Lita makes another stunning discovery.
A Christmas card came addressed to Jim. She opened it. A woman wrote in something like, missing your kisses. The woman's return address was on the envelope, so Lita went and spoke to her, and the woman said that she had been having an affair with Jim.
Lita is distraught and goes home to be with her parents in Atlanta. But her husband manages to lure her back, increasing her weekly allowance in a now post-nuptial agreement.
Now it's $300 instead of $150 a week, but it still shows that all of their assets belong to Jim.
That's right, the successful business, Lita's Mercedes, multiple properties, even her jewelry, still belong to her husband in the event of a divorce.
But in an attempt at reconciliation, Lita signs the postnup.
Just a few months after Lita signs that agreement, without Lita knowing, Sullivan decides to sell Crown Beverages for $5 million.
And that's not all. He tells her they're moving to Palm Beach, Florida.
Lita was in shock.
She had any clue that he was going to whistle her down to Palm Beach.
But Lita's new Florida home, located a stone's throw from what would become Mar-a-Lago, is more elaborate than she ever would have imagined. Called Casa Alita, it's a 17,000 square foot mansion with 8 oceanfront bedrooms.
It was just unbelievable.
When you went to Jim's home, you go through this tunnel and you would be at the beach. It's your own private beach.
But for Lita, everything that glitters isn't exactly gold.
James Sullivan very much wanted to integrate himself into the upper echelons of society, and his aspirations did not include Lita's participation.
It was not a welcoming place for a black woman to live. And when he found out that to sort of scale the level of social plateau he was looking at in Palm Beach, having a black wife was a serious impediment to that.
She was left out of some affairs, and she really became upset.
So even though they had money, this is a moneyed crowd, didn't really matter though.
He was barely rich compared to Palm Beach.
Did he want to be in that crowd?
Oh yes, he wanted to, be accepted as one of the rich and famous.
It doesn't take long before Jim starts to flirt with other women.
And it's at a cocktail party that one particularly elegant Palm Beach woman catches Sullivan's eye.
Jim sees Suki Rogers, who is a Korean-born socialite.
She was telegenic. She had a spicy personality. I think a man like Jim Sullivan could not help but be intrigued by this beautiful woman.
They started dating. He's still married to Lita.
By now, the Sullivans have been married nearly 10 years, but things are about to explode.
Lita finds women's lingerie in their master bed. It's the bra that broke the camel's back.
She said, I'm done. I'm packing up my stuff and I'm going back home.
Lita arrives back in Atlanta. The very next day, she files for divorce from Jim.
But Sullivan fights Lita every step of the way, and the divorce drags on.
Did she seem concerned, worried, nervous about her breakup?
What I detected was she was excited and she was cutting the cord and leaving Jim alone. She wanted her life back.
While Lita is looking forward to a new life of freedom, she can't be happy about the prospect of leaving her marriage with virtually nothing. No career, no Palm Beach mansion, no Buckhead townhouse, and $2,500 a month in alimony for 3 years. So Lita is going to divorce court, determined to fight for what she believes she deserves.
All she wanted was a reasonable financial settlement so that she could kind of go on with her life.
January 16th, 1987 was set up to be a pivotal day in the lives of Lita and Jim Sullivan.
a judge was going to decide whether or not to throw out the postnuptial agreement.
She might get as much as close to $1 million in cash and assets.
The morning of January 16th, Lita Sullivan, she'd lose her life that day in a murder.
With Lita out of the picture, Jim Sullivan stands to gain the property that they had and retain control over all his money.
Sullivan was the main suspect.
That is, until a treasure trove of secret recordings of Lita's private conversations are uncovered, taking this investigation in a whole new direction.
And police are looking at you.
You know, you make a big circle and you put everybody in it that's close to Lita. Everybody's a suspect. But the first one would be the husband.
The first and obvious suspect was James Sullivan, who stood to gain everything from her death, all the property, all the monies, and who was contesting the divorce.
Detectives went down to speak to him in Palm Beach, and they put him through a polygraph.
Jim Sullivan not only passes the polygraph, but there's something else. He has an alibi that puts him nearly 700 miles away from the crime scene.
James Sullivan was actually in Palm Beach at the time of Lita's murder.
When you first look at it, it looks pretty cut and dry. When you interview all the people involved, everybody points in one direction, towards the husband. But when you sit down and look at the facts, I'm not so sure that the husband is the person that committed the crime.
Nothing surfaced in the early stages of the investigation that implicated Jim Sullivan in the murder.
Sullivan is cooperating with authorities, and during his interview with detectives, he mentions the name of his friend, Marvin Marable.
At the time of Lita's death, Marvin and James Sullivan had a very close relationship.
Remember, Marvin Marable is married to Lita's best friend, Poppy, who was in the Buckhead townhouse with her 3-year-old daughter the morning that Lita was murdered. But back before the shooting, the friendship hadn't always sat well with Marvin.
When Lita moved back to Atlanta, they started, hanging out together.
So she's disillusioned by her relationship. Did her failed relationship have any impact on your relationship?
Well, from the standpoint of them, being together all the time and going out, yeah.
Commiserating.
Oh, absolutely. Certainly didn't help. And I can understand her being there for her friend, but, sometimes you can go overboard, which is what happened in our relationship.
Marable, a former New York State trooper turned entrepreneur, says Lita would often spend hours at his home with Poppy. And it was during this time, he says, coincidentally or not, that his own marriage began to unravel.
I found a letter where Poppy was planning to file for divorce.
So she was planning to file for divorce without your knowledge?
Oh, yeah.
That had to be a shocker.
It was.
So then you decided to try something a little questionable after that.
I have a background in law enforcement. I don't see it as questionable. It's your own telephone in your own house. I put a recorder on the, people call it a tap, on the phone, and I started recording conversations.
In the house phone?
Mm-hmm. On the house phone.
He began listening to Poppy and Lita's conversations and ended up recording more than 300 hours.
In doing those very personal conversations between girlfriends, Marvin Marable learns that there may be some information that James Sullivan might be interested in learning that will be helpful for him in his divorce case.
He tells Sullivan about the tapes and what's on them, specifically Lita's post-divorce plans.
And soon enough, the two disgruntled husbands are conspiring to get the best of their soon-to-be ex-wives in divorce court.
Marvin Marable travels down to Palm Beach under a false name, and the two men listened to the tapes, and Marvin says, I'm not going to record anymore, and Jim says, no, keep recording.
Was there talk of money?
Yeah, he offered $30,000.
Jim says to Marvin, if the judge decides to honor the postnuptial agreement, he's going to give Marvin $30,000 for the use of the information on the tapes.
What kinds of things did Lita talk about that could be helpful to either one of you?
You know, there were some guys that, she would talk to, but she was legally separated.
But then, just a few days after Marvin and Jim's secret meeting at Casa Elita,
Poppy and Lita somehow discovered the recording device.
How did they react?
It wasn't nice. She filed for divorce the next day.
She was angry.
She was very angry.
Lita was upset too. So upset that she reported Marvin to the authorities, and he was charged with possession of an eavesdropping device. So when police questioned Sullivan about who might have a motive to murder his wife, he tells them to look no further than Marvin Marable.
And sure enough, only a few days after Lita's death, Marvin is being questioned by the Atlanta Police Department about Lita's murder.
I go down for the interview, and the first thing they did is read me my rights. And from there on, it was just a nightmare. I was a prime suspect.
You have a law enforcement background, so you knew what police
were. I knew that I was being followed. I could pick the investigators, police, could pick them out all the time. Jim had mentioned my name to them. He said, look at Marvin Marable.
This was serious stuff.
Oh, yeah.
How worried were you?
I was very worried.
Joanne and Emery McClinton were beyond devastated. Their eldest daughter was dead. Just 3 days after Lita's murder, they held a funeral.
Days dissolve into months, and authorities are no closer to finding Lita Sullivan's murderer.
The case is just sort of growing colder and colder by the minute.
And while Marvin Marable might have been angry at Lita for pressing those charges against him for eavesdropping, there was no evidence he was responsible for her death.
I know that people get wrongly accused, wrongly convicted, and so the only saving grace is the fact that I knew I was innocent.
By process of elimination is you can determine the pieces that don't fit.
And just eliminate them.
The way in which we eliminated Marvin Marable as a suspect, there was just not enough to connect him directly to the crime itself.
As for that eavesdropping device charge, Marvin was put on probation, which he completed, and then he was exonerated. But on those recordings Marable made, Lita had talked about other men, something that her soon-to-be ex-husband Sullivan pointed out to police.
He made allegations that she was participating in extramarital affairs, and that perhaps this was the action of, a disgruntled boyfriend.
We have a lot of major players. At this point in the investigation, we have a lot of suspects.
One of the first men police question is a professional athlete.
Lita and him had been friends when she was in Palm Beach. The police quickly found out that he was in prison for drug possession.
That athlete is behind bars when Lita is killed, so clearly he can't be the trigger man. Then investigators turn their sights to a prominent Atlanta businessman.
And he and Lita had been childhood friends, and they sort of rekindled their friendship. And they realized that he had no motive, and they found nothing that connected him.
Authorities also take a hard look at another suitor who had taken Lita to dinner the night before her death. And get this, had also given her 2 roses.
The suspect was a man named Bob Daniel, and Bob had had an incident a couple months before the murder where, in a drunken rage, he came to Lita's house, smashed his car into the garage, and as the cops were taking him away, he said, "I'm gonna kill that." So, serious red flag.
But that lead didn't go anywhere either.
Bob had just had quadruple bypass surgery. You know, the police ultimately decided that Bob had nothing to do with it.
It's the unknowing that makes it so difficult. And to know that there are individuals who may be walking around now planning and plotting to do the same thing to somebody else is abhorrent to me.
I remember having the impression it was like a festering wound for them.
The McClintons want to draw attention to a $25,000 reward in the case.
The cause of finding justice for Lita became their obsession, became their passion.
The reward is for the arrest and conviction of those individuals responsible for our daughter's murder.
To catch Lita's killer, the Atlanta Police Department assigns 2 veteran detectives to the case.
If Lieutenant Walker bears a resemblance to actor Billy D. Williams, Welcome Harris reminds one of Columbo, the dogged, disheveled detective of television fame.
Building a murder case was like making a mosaic. You know, you get a shiny piece of glass here, a gem there. You put it together and you hope that from it emerges the shimmering image of a killer.
This particular case deals with what I consider to be high society. It contains a little bit of everything. Intrigue, mystery.
These days, a lot of murders are solved using DNA technology, ring camera technology. But back then, it was detective work.
She was shot with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
Most important thing found at the crime scene was the roses.
They canvassed all the area flower shops and quickly found that the roses had been purchased at the Botany Bay flower shop.
They interviewed the worker in there, and he told them that this guy came in about 8 o'clock and bought these roses and paid in cash and then left. And he was in a small car.
The florist gave a description of the man buying the flowers and another man who was waiting in the car.
So detectives know they're looking for at least 2 men.
Until yet another person is described to police, that flower delivery man who had looked Lita's neighbor right in the eye.
There was a next-door neighbor of Lita's, lived over on the right side of her condo. He lived there. His name was Bob Christensen.
He actually gave a description of the flower delivery man as a Caucasian, middle-aged man.
They went down to the police station and worked with a police artist and got sketches. As the sketches were being completed, the officers were realizing, obviously, that the shooter was not Jim Sullivan and that the other individuals were all 3 distinct individuals. They didn't look anything like each other, so therefore we knew 3 people were involved.
For investigators, this has all the earmarks of only one thing: murder for hire.
All the evidence pointed to a hitman showing up at the front door, posing as a flower delivery man, and firing a gunshot into Lita's head.
With investigators now exploring the possibility that Lita was murdered by a hired gunman, another critical piece of evidence comes to light: a mysterious phone call.
And what they found was that on the same day that Lita was murdered, about an hour after the actual shooting, there was a collect phone call that was placed from a payphone right outside of Atlanta, Georgia.
Was this a call from the killer?
I don't know about you. I haven't had a collect call from a payphone. So as a cop, you probably go, I wonder if that's connected.
And a tip from a woman 700 miles away may just be the big break investigators have been waiting for.
I said, anyone knows that if you wanted to get a woman to answer the door, all you would have to do is take flowers to the door.
This was a huge puzzle of a case.
A hitman showing up at the front door, posing as a flower delivery man. firing a gunshot into Lita's head.
How did your puzzle-solving skills come into play?
You figure out what fits and what doesn't fit.
I want everyone listening to this to know that I am absolutely innocent.
The loss of a daughter.
They still don't have a murder weapon.
But they do have witnesses.
Do you know anybody that can possibly take care of my problem for me? Because I need some help here.
Anyone knows that if you wanted to get a woman to answer the door, all you would have to do is take flowers to the door.
She suggested the flowers.
She suggested the flowers.
You actually brought in a doorbell. Why?
To have that sense of what Lita Sullivan experienced right before her murder. She's about to meet her maker.
It's a deadly delivery of a dozen pink roses. 35-year-old Lita McClinton Sullivan opens her front door and is suddenly gunned down.
On the year anniversary of Lita's death, there are no named suspects. They still don't have the murder weapon. They don't have a hitman. They don't have a paper trail that ties Jim or anyone else to a hit.
But that's about to change when they get Jim Sullivan's phone records.
On the same day that Lita was murdered, about an hour or so after the actual shooting, there was a collect phone call to James Sullivan's home in Palm Beach, Florida.
It turns out to be from a rest stop in Suwanee, Georgia, maybe 30 or 40 miles from Buckhead. Using a phone call to call another state, that opens up federal jurisdiction, and in this case, that's the FBI.
We believed the phone call from Suwanee Rest Stop to his home in Palm Beach, Florida, was sufficient indication that a contract hitter may have called him after doing the job.
Enter Special Agent John Kingston, who takes a particular interest in that phone call and a whole slew of other calls Jim Sullivan made and received around the time of Lita's murder.
I got a whole year's worth, 6 months before the murder to 6 months after the murder.
Kingston notices a few calls, and one of them was to Bob Christensen, Lita's neighbor. When Kingston talks to Bob, he finds out that Jim had called Bob 3 days before the murder.
Sullivan said, had he seen anything suspicious around Lita's townhouse?
And Bob finds it strange. He hasn't talked to Jim in over a year.
Bob Christensen shares something else with Agent Kingston. On the same day Jim Sullivan called him, 3 days before the fatal flower delivery, Lita heard a loud knock on her door at 5 or 6 in the morning. It was so early and so unnerving, she didn't answer it.
So that made the call that he got from Jim even more suspicious.
Kingston also finds that a call is made between Jim's house and a Howard Johnson's motel in Atlanta, just a couple of miles from Lita's house. This is really strange. One thing that he's learned about Jim is that he's not a Hojo's kind of guy. So he goes to the Howard Johnsons and asks if he can look through the records.
They gave me the shoebox with all the registration cards, and I pick out 3 that I thought, well, these are awfully interesting. So I said, do you guys have the phone records? They said, yeah, sure we do. And I'm thinking, boy, these people keep really good records, and they keep them for a long time, and I'm really glad. They bring me the phone records for January 13th. I'm flipping through them, and all of a sudden I see 305 Palm Beach, South Florida area code. And I'm pretty sure it's Jim's number. And so I check my records real quick, and I go, yep, that's his number. And then I look, and I said, oh, look, it's from 518. That's one of the 3 cards I pulled out. Well, it just so happens I have a copy of it here. And one of the things it imparts is 3 individuals checked into the room. The individual who actually registered used the name Johnny Furr, but 3 individuals is important to me because I think 3 people involved in the crime. They put their car down as a Toyota 85 with a North Carolina plate. We believe that a Toyota was the getaway car for the murder. So there's two coincidences already.
But remember, these motel records are from January 13th. Lita was murdered 3 days later on the 16th. Special Agent Kingston is beginning to surmise that the killers may have tried and failed to get to her once before.
What I believe it to be is the killers having come down 3 days before the actual murder was committed, knocking on her door, her not answering it, and them having to stop and regroup and figure out what plan B is going to be. So I am in love with this registration card and becomes the focal point of my life for the next several months.
Kingston's next move is to locate this so-called Johnny Fur with the North Carolina license plate.
And to my surprise, there are 150 John or Johnny Furs in North Carolina. But to my great surprise, 115 of these 150 are in a very small circle in North Carolina, between the three cities of Albemarle, Concord, and Kannapolis.
They're going to knock on every door and find this Johnny Fur. Of course, they're coming from Georgia, and anytime the FBI goes and investigates in another state, they need that state's approval. And just as they're about to get to the state border, their boss calls them and says, North Carolina's denying you entry, and they'll take it from here.
And that pretty much kills my case. that kills my case.
Yeah, soon after that, Agent Kingston is transferred to another job, and that whole investigation just sort of fades away. Meantime, in Palm Beach, Jim and Suki are living the high life. So with Lita out of the picture, Jim is free to marry Suki, which he does 8 months after Lita's murder.
He's thinking that he's the cat's meow. Eating in restaurants in Palm Beach, going to parties, got another attractive woman on his arm.
Jim drives around town in a Rolls Royce and gets into a fender bender and has to go to traffic court. Jim says to the judge, well, you've misunderstood. I wasn't even driving that day. Suki was driving. So the judge says, we're going to throw it out. However, the cop who was on the scene catches wind, and he says Suki wasn't even in the car that day. It was Jim driving alone. So now Jim has perjured himself, as has Suki.
Jim ultimately got convicted of perjury, was given a year probation and a year of home confinement.
Suki Sullivan also receives a year of probation.
Suki's freaking out. When she gets charged with perjury on his behalf, she's like, I'm done with this. Suki files for divorce from Jim. And the trial that follows is the juiciest, craziest gossip in town. So when it's Suki's turn to testify, she drops a bomb.
Did he talk to you about his former wife, Lita?
Yes.
Tell me what it was he said to you about Lita.
You can hear a pin drop. It's a big moment. After 33 months of marriage, Suki files for divorce from Jim.
Not surprisingly, it's another disputed divorce. But what might have been typical testimony about alimony takes a sudden turn in court.
Tell me what it was he said to you about Lita.
He hired someone to work with her.
I'm sorry?
He hired someone to work with her.
She claimed that he confessed to her that he had Lita killed.
This became a bombshell in the investigation of the murder of Lita Sullivan.
Suki Sullivan's divorce testimony may be big news for the FBI, but it has zero impact on the divorce judgment, which favors her husband, Jim Sullivan, in nearly every way.
His divorce was complete, but his life with turmoil was just beginning.
The opulent ocean-facing Palm Beach Palace may look like something out of The Great Gatsby, but while we watched, a new chapter in a crime story was unfolding.
We develop information here at WSB. There's going to be a raid on Jim Sullivan's Palm Beach mansion, and that is the biggest break in the Lita Sullivan case since the murder itself.
Investigators from the FBI, Atlanta Police, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation were on the grounds of a mansion identified as that of James Sullivan.
All of a sudden, Jim Sullivan is clearly in the crosshairs of federal authorities.
They got a tip that Jim, now a convicted felon, has guns in the house. Of course, you're not allowed to have guns if you're a convicted felon. So they put together a sweeping affidavit to get a search warrant.
We did see a number of guns loaded into a car and this box carried out.
When they found the guns, he was in violation of his probation, and so he went to jail for 9 months.
All this time, a federal grand jury has been convening in Atlanta.
They've got what they found in the mansion. They got what they found in the phone records. They've got Suki Sullivan. They've got the neighbors. What they don't have are the identities of the hit team. There's a problem, though.
We, the federal government, have a 5-year statute of limitations, which is going to be up on January 16th of '92.
With 5 or 6 days to go before it expired, the U.S. attorney made a bold decision. We're going to take our best shot with what we got right now, so they indict Jim Sullivan.
Jim Sullivan is indicted on multiple counts of arranging Lita's murder for hire through interstate phone calls.
Millionaire James V. Sullivan is on trial in connection with an alleged murder for hire plot. Here he arrives for the first day of trial testimony.
It was a trial that transfixed Atlanta. I mean, it was something we were covering on basically a daily basis. But we couldn't have it on camera because it's federal court.
It looks like the family is finally going to have some accountability for the murder of their daughter, Lita.
The prosecution suggests the killers were calling Sullivan from the rest stop to say the job was done. The defense suggests otherwise.
Jim Sullivan is lawyered up with the best criminal defense lawyers that you can find anywhere in Atlanta and maybe in the whole country.
There is no evidence at this point in this case who placed that call or whether that call was placed by anyone connected with the crime.
The prosecutor spent 2 weeks telling their side of the story.
Suki, the woman he married months after Lita's death, delivered some of the most dramatic testimony the jury has heard.
They build what they feel like is a really strong case.
And then a big bombshell hits.
The judge says, I'm forced to dismiss this case for lack of evidence.
Judge Marvin Shube ruled that, in effect, even if Sullivan may have been involved in the murder for hire, the government fell short in proving the phone calls related to the murder.
This is one of the most difficult decisions I had to make because I firmly believe in the jury system.
And then he looks at Jim and he says, you've been acquitted.
This was ultra shocking.
Suddenly it's over, and Jim is a free man.
I want everyone listening to this to know that I am absolutely innocent. I had nothing to do with Lita's death. Her death was a great tragedy, and I thank God and my attorneys that this ordeal is over.
The family at that point, I guess, is just sort of at a loss. How devastating was that for them?
They felt like the justice system had let them down.
I was not expecting this. It's extremely difficult.
The system today is weighed in the favor of the defense.
James Sullivan seems to have gotten away with murder.
But Lita's parents aren't giving up.
They file a wrongful death suit in Palm Beach, Florida, and they win.
We, the jury, return the following verdict.
The jury deems that Jim is guilty of wrongful death
Total damages of the estate of Lita McClinton Sullivan, $4 million.
But Sullivan is able to hide his assets and not pay any of the civil judgment.
Jim Sullivan appealed their civil judgment, and he won by having the Florida court say that they had filed it after the Florida statute of limitations.
Once again, Jim has wiggled out of any responsibility, and the family is left dumbfounded.
Until
a call is received out of the blue.
A young woman comes forward. It proved to be the break in the case that everyone was looking for.
"11 years have gone by since Lita Sullivan was gunned down on her doorstep when a tip comes in from a town 700 miles away.
A call is received out of the blue, and the individual calling is an attorney in Beaumont, Texas. He has a receptionist whose name is Belinda Trahan, who has told him a very unusual story about her boyfriend, Tony Harwood.
Belinda and Tony lived together in Albemarle, North Carolina. And he was a long-distance truck driver for North American Van Lines.
He basically drove a moving truck.
Belinda tells her boss about a time that Tony came home from a long-haul trucking trip and said that a rich white man in Florida offered to pay him to, quote, take care of his black wife in Georgia. At the time, Belinda didn't believe it. She thought he must be cheating on her.
Belinda thought that it was Tony just trying to get out of town and go down to Atlanta to the strip bars.
Until he took her to meet this rich white guy in a diner somewhere, and he got a wad full of money.
She says he sits down briefly in their booth and gives Tony Harwood the balance owed for the hit on the man's wife.
Belinda Trahan tells her boss that soon after this bizarre trip, she broke up with Tony Harwood and moved to Texas. But now, 11 years later, she says that he mysteriously reached out to her again, asking her to meet him at a nearby truck stop.
She's afraid that he may commit harm to her.
And it's this new tip from Belinda Trahan that sends Georgia authorities to the Lone Star State, turning up the heat on an otherwise cold case.
Georgia Bureau of Investigator Agent John Lang takes a detective from the Atlanta Police Department and goes down to Texas to talk to Belinda.
She was with Tony when they met this mysterious man at this diner that they were meeting at. We wanted to show her a lineup of pictures in hopes that she could pick Sullivan out of it.
And she takes her pink fingernail and taps right on Jim Sullivan's face and says, "This is the man."
My plan of attack was to get some recordings with her and Tony. So we got her to get in touch with Tony again.
She's talking to him and trying to coax information out of him, knowing John Lang is listening on her end. And Tony gives enough information that places him at the scene at the time.
We had the phone calls with Tony. She picked Jim Sullivan out of the lineup, but there was still more investigation to do. We really didn't know who Tony Harwood was.
John Lang knows that Tony worked at North American Van Lines. So he calls up North American Van Lines and he says, "Hey, you don't happen to have your records from 11 years ago?" And the guy says, "Yeah, there's some boxes full of files up in a musty attic. You're more than welcome to go poke around."
We went up into a hot attic and opened the first box that I went through. And about the third document I looked at was Jim Sullivan. His address was on it, Palm Beach, Florida. His signature was on it, and Tony Harwood's signature was on it.
He finds a bill of lading showing that Tony Harwood moved furniture for Jim Sullivan 2 months before the murder. And it's the paper trail he needs. It's like the jackpot.
Astounding. I don't know any other way to explain it. I mean, open this box and like the third record I look at, here it is. I mean, it just like it was meant to be.
On a Sunday morning in April of 1998, John Lang and local authorities go knock on Tony's door in Albemarle, North Carolina. Tony answers the door.
And he said, you know, I've been waiting on you boys for a long time.
They take Tony to the Albemarle police station. Lang interviews Tony for 3 hours in this tiny room. But at the end of the day, Tony admits to taking money from Jim, $25,000, to take care of Lita. He also tells the detectives that he wasn't the one to pull the trigger, but that he was there the day of the murder.
He went through the whole case. And throughout the interview, he incriminated himself even more. I mean, admitted that he was there. He knew what happened. So he was arrested for murder of Lita Sullivan. And we took him back to Atlanta that day.
After Tony's arrest, things moved pretty quickly.
We are here today to announce the issuance of a warrant for the arrest of James V. Sullivan.
They got enough to get Sullivan. And now, boom, Sullivan hears of this and blows. He takes off.
We have reason to believe that he's outside the country.
He's just gone, vanished.
Investigators say he could be anywhere.
He is nowhere to be found.
We certainly do not know where Mr. Sullivan is. We have reason to believe that he's outside the country.
More than a decade after his wife Lita was murdered, Jim Sullivan seems to be playing a game of catch me if you can with authorities.
There is an international manhunt for James Sullivan.
Well, Jim had moved to Costa Rica, actually bought a home there. In 1998, after an arrest warrant was issued for him, he immediately, like that night, went to Panama.
If you have any information concerning James Sullivan, you should contact the nearest U.S. Embassy or consulate.
We didn't know exactly where he had flown from Panama, and we didn't know exactly where he had gone.
His trail goes cold.
They put him on Interpol, and it was just cold.
They've tapped phone lines, anybody that he might have called, and he's called no one, not even his mother.
There was a few tips that came in. The tips are just dead ends.
The McClintons, they're dumbfounded that this guy could, get away again.
But in late 1999, with Sullivan still completely off the grid, the heartbroken Emery and Joanne McClinton do get some good news.
Last week came this, a court decision reinstating a $4 million judgment against Jim Sullivan in connection with a wrongful death case brought in effect by Lita's estate.
Lita's family and law enforcement officials hope that a renewed hunt for Sullivan's money will help smoke him out.
Where you find Sullivan's money, you're going to find him close by.
But even this goes nowhere.
Fast forward to 2002. There is no sign of Jim Sullivan.
We tried every effort in our arsenal to try and locate him, to put him on the FBI's wanted list, but to also put him on the top 10 list, which is very unusual. You don't get on the top 10 list very easily. Then we also featured him on America's Most Wanted.
The most recent picture we have of Sullivan is at least 5 years old, so the FBI age-enhanced this photo, which may bear a closer resemblance to Sullivan's appearance today. If you recognize James Sullivan from either of these photographs, call us now at 1-800-CRIME-TV.
A man sees America's Most Wanted on television and goes, I know that guy. He lives in my condo complex in Chiam, Thailand. And sure enough, he calls the authorities.
He went to Panama, to Venezuela, and eventually to Thailand, where he got a beachfront condo.
He spends his days walking on the beach, sitting by the pool, occasionally playing tennis, as though No other troubles in the world. The Thai police knock on Jim Sullivan's door on July 2nd, 2002, and say, "You're under arrest." The McClintons can hardly believe it.
We found out from the FBI, and that was a moment of jubilation.
15 years is a long time to concentrate on the loss of a daughter. And we had determination, and we had the will, but we also had all of these individuals behind us.
Almost as soon as Jim Sullivan is arrested for murder, Tony Harwood, who has continued to deny being the trigger man, agrees to a plea deal.
Tony kind of sees the writing on the wall.
Harwood just decided that he would plead guilty, the negotiated plea for manslaughter, and that, in turn, that he would testify against Jim Sullivan.
It took 2 years, but he finally was extradited back to Atlanta in 2004.
He got off the plane. He was wearing a single shoe because he had such terrible gout in his foot. But he gets off and gets taken to Fulton County Jail. And there's this sort of cumulative sigh of relief.
To be clear, Sullivan being tried for murder in Georgia is not double jeopardy. For one thing, it is a state case, and the previous one was a federal case, and that specifically was for arranging Lita's murder for hire over the phone.
The elected district attorney appoints me, along with a couple of other lawyers, to prosecute the case.
This was a huge puzzle of a case.
Right.
How did your puzzle-solving skills come into play?
There's no cutting corners, and you spread the pieces out, and then you figure out what fits and what doesn't fit. And that's kind of what the prosecution of James Sullivan was like. It was putting together all these different pieces so that we could make sure that the prosecution of the case was done accurately and with integrity.
What concerned you going into this trial?
He was rich. He was a white male. He had escaped the federal authorities before, and he had two of the best criminal defense attorneys representing him.
They are sharp, and if they can find a way out, they're going to find a way out.
There will not be one shred of physical evidence that links Jim Sullivan to this crime.
Jim has eluded justice so many times that there's a real palpable fear that he's going to get away with it, that he's going to elude justice again.
After nearly 20 years, Jim Sullivan is finally on trial here in Fulton County for the murder of his wife, Lita. For her heartbroken parents, this day couldn't come soon enough.
The pain, believe it or not, it increases. It does not decrease. The shock decreases. The depression decreases. But the pain continues.
It was an A-team of prosecutors, great courtroom performers.
Clint Rucker was the lead prosecutor, and Anna Gray, Kelly Hill, Sheila Ross.
And the evidence will show that the person who sent that hitman to Lita's door is the only person in the world who could have profited from her death. It is the only person in the world who met Tony Harwood and paid him off for killing her. And is the only person in the world who fled halfway around the world to avoid facing you.
Jury was 9 women and 3 men.
The jury is also racially mixed.
Jim Sullivan had Ed Garland and Don Samuel, again, the people who won that big courtroom victory against the feds.
What the state relies on is 2 types of evidence. Circumstantial evidence, and then the testimony of con men.
The state initially started out the nature of the crime and what happened that morning.
I heard two sounds. They sounded to me like steel hitting steel.
I just didn't want to believe that it was a gun. And so I hesitated for a second, and then I really knew that it was a gun.
She was able to squeeze my hand each time I spoke with her, like she understood what I was saying. And for many, many years after this, I thought that's all it was. And then one day I realized that she was comforting me more than I was comforting her. That was the sort of lady I felt she was.
They had the phone calls that the FBI had found.
There was a call from this room to Mr. Sullivan's home at 7:44 in the morning.
But all this testimony notwithstanding, it's Belinda Trahan and Tony Harwood who everybody wants to hear from.
Belinda Trahan was the most important witness in the case.
He told me that some white guy who wanted to take out his black wife. I didn't believe it.
Why not?
I've been with him for 3 years, over 3 years. I mean, I figured he met someone because we were on the outs.
Most chilling about Belinda's testimony is that she confirms that there was at least one failed attempt on Lita's life.
She testifies that when Tony had gone to Lita's house on January 13th, that she didn't come to the door. They drove back to North Carolina and told Belinda that, it didn't work.
But Belinda testifies that hearing that from her boyfriend left her incredulous.
I said, just don't even lie to me. I said, because anyone knows that if you wanted to get a woman to answer the door, all you would have to do is take flowers to the door.
Did you in any way mean for that to be a suggestion as to how to get the job accomplished?
No, not at all.
Here's Belinda Trahan, and she is falling on the sword about what she did.
She suggested the flowers.
She suggested the flowers, and she admitted that on the stand.
You brought in the diner booth where they sat. Wow. Why couldn't you just tell the jury and show pictures?
I want you to see the puzzle once it's all put together. Yeah, I can show you the box. I can show you a photograph of it, but when I put it together and I show it to you, you'll never forget it.
Pushed the paper across the table like this, and then Tony put his hand on it and took it from there.
And there was a particular moment when she is asked to stand up in court and identified the person she witnessed give Tony Harwood an envelope full of money.
Please, point him out.
It's right there. He can't even make eye contact.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant, James Sullivan.
But if prosecutors feel like Belinda Trahan's testimony is helping their case, they have to know that it's just as big a risk to put Tony Harwood on the stand.
Can you show the jurors the body language Mr. Sullivan used and the tone of voice, if it's possible, that he used when he was explaining to you that his wife, Lita, was a problem?
You know, I've got this wife of mine up in Atlanta, and she is just trying to take everything I've got. And I don't know what to do about it. I need someone to take care of my problem. Do you know anybody that can possibly take care of my problem for me? Because I need some help here.
We could prove Tony Harwood and James Sullivan actually met each other. So I spent the first part of Tony Harwood's examination confirming his signature on the hotel receipt.
And I put signature, Johnny Kerr.
The fact that he actually went to the flower shop.
Who actually went inside the flower shop to purchase the flowers?
I did.
They had Tony Harwood saying that he was the one who made the collect call to Jim Sullivan's house.
What did you say to him?
I said, Merry Christmas. And he said, I understand. And that was it.
What were you trying to convey to Mr. Sullivan by giving him that signal? those code words, that his problem was taken care of.
The defense had their chance to cross-examine Harwood. Not a single question. The two key witnesses were, of course, Belinda Trahan and Tony Harwood. And so, in closing arguments, the defense assailed their credibility.
You should reject everything that came out of his mouth. Harwood says envelope in the bathroom. She says an envelope at this booth over here.
Garland presents to the jury a letter-sized envelope stuffed with bills. Harwood had said it was all cash in $20 bills.
See, oops, some of it fell out, and some more. It won't fit in an envelope. The whole story just doesn't make sense.
In your closing arguments, you actually brought in a doorbell. Why? What was the point?
I wanted the jurors to have that sense of what Lita Sullivan experienced right before her murder.
An ordinary moment.
In an ordinary moment. The second reason why I did it is because James Sullivan liked to read books. And one of his favorite authors wrote a book called For Whom the Bell Tolls.
I'm going to ask you through your verdict of guilty to each and every count to tell James Vincent Sullivan for whom the bell tolls. Tell him that it tolls for thee. For you. For you.
And then I rang the doorbell 3 times.
As the jury goes out to deliberate, I think there's a real fear. Are they going to do it this time, or is it going to be like every other time?
I do not see this as a slam dunk for the state.
There's this anxiety. You're worried, but you're hopeful. I don't care who you talk to that does this kind of work as a litigator. They will tell you, oh, I can look at the jurors and I probably can tell you what they're going to do. No, you don't. You don't.
This is breaking news.
We do have breaking news at this hour. The jury having reached a verdict in the trial of Jim Sullivan.
The jury came back within a few hours on the same day.
It was so silent, and the tension was just palpable.
There's this anxiety. You don't know what it's going to be. You don't know how it's going to turn out. And you're worried, but you're hopeful.
It's hard not to think of Lita's family, her parents especially, after so many fits and starts to win justice for their firstborn child. It comes down to this moment.
The judge says,
"Ma'am, would you publish the verdict?"
And then from that moment until they get finished, nobody is breathing.
Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Vincent Sullivan, guilty of malice murder.
I got a chance to hug Emory McClinton. I had never been hugged so tight before. This was his baby. And we had finally, after 19 years, brought that man a sense of satisfaction. I'll never forget it. The conviction of James Sullivan was the biggest puzzle that I had solved in my career. And it is one that gave me the most satisfaction that I had ever experienced as a prosecutor.
The court hears victim impact statements. What a loss it was to have Lita gone from their lives.
I dream of Lita often. She is smiling and walking in my direction, and I in hers. But we never reach each other.
The jury came back and gave him life in prison without the possibility of parole.
I am so very pleased, and I'm happy. What we were waiting for was something and our judicial system something to happen and to bring it all together, and that's what you see today.
Why did it take 20 years, do you think?
It goes back to the resources.
He had privilege?
White privilege, completely. He knew how to manipulate people, and he had the resources to do that.
You've got a black victim, you've got a white defendant. Did race hover in this courtroom over this case at all?
I think in our criminal justice system, unfortunately, race always permeates throughout a case. But I'm thankful to say the evidence in the case overcame that racial component.
They never received any money. Is there money? Where is this money?
He's been able to secret his money. For the McClintons, seeing him rot in a prison in South Georgia brings them a whole lot more satisfaction.
This is a woman who you never met, I've never met, most of the people involved in this case never met her, and yet her life really made an impact. When somebody dies in this kind of manner, they don't stop being a member of the family, they don't stop being a member of the community, they never stop mattering.
David, Tony Harwood was released from prison in 2018 after serving his 20-year sentence. Jim Sullivan remains behind bars with no possibility of parole.
As for the other two men who were seen at that flower shop, no one else was ever charged. That is our program for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा दे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा दे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी सुल्तान भी आए बड़े बड़े सुल्तान भी आए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए आए हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी ऊंचे लम्हे महल बना दे ऊंचे लम्हे महल बना दे दगा फरेब ते जुल्म कमा दे दगा फरेब ते जुल्म कमा दे हाय कुछ नहीं खड़ते नाल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कुछ नहीं खड़ते नाल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा दे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया देंदी दुख बतेरे दुनिया देंदी विछड़े लाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए मावा तू विछड़े लाल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी सुख दे सजना सारे संगी सुख दे सजना सारे संगी नस जांदे जद आवे तंगी नस जांदे जद आवे तंगी हाय कोई नहीं गम दा प्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओह कोई नहीं गम दा प्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हसना रोना गम लाचारी हसना रोना गम लाचारी आज मेरी कल तेरी बारी आज मेरी कल तेरी बारी हाय कंजरी दी मिसाल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा बे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओह कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी पुत वे तुड़ा नी मिट्टी दा वीरा पुत तुड़ा नी मिट्टी दा वीरा अपना आप संभाल बशीरा अपना आप संभाल बशीरा हाय मिट्टी मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय मिट्टी मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी सुल्तान भी आए बड़े बड़े सुल्तान भी आए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए हाय हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल हाल दुनिया